So we didn't get to sound the shofar this morning, right? We get to sound it tomorrow morning. So we can now start talking about the shofar, which is the symbol of the high holidays. Something very new. I think you get a feel for it. You can look it up closer. This is a shofar with the city of Yerushalayim painted onto it, obviously in an artistic way. So this is becoming a very new thing in Israel with the artists, which they take shofarot, and they paint different scenes from the land of Israel on it. As long as you don't approach the mouthpiece or where the sound comes out, meaning you don't alter the sound in any way, you are permitted to decorate a shofar. And this one is a classic example. You have, this is very typical in the 17 and 1800s, is to decorate it with silver. And this has inscription on it about the sounding of the shofar. But once again, very careful not to approach the mouthpiece or the end where the sound comes out. So this is something that is being kind of renewed, right? Things change from century to century. Something that was common in the past disappeared for 100 years. You don't see shofarot like this anymore. You don't see painted shofarot. But they're coming back. And it's a renewal of something old that was more decorative, that was just more celebratory. And I think that's, again, you talked about because of Israel. I think because of Israel, we're just a people that celebrates more, that is willing to just display our Jewish lives in a very, very beautiful way and in a way that presents it with a great deal of happiness. So a quick shofar story for our reflection. A story about a man who was in an Israeli hospital over Rosh Hashanah. So what happens in Israeli hospitals and any hospitals where Jews live, someone comes in to sound the shofar. So someone came in for him and his roommate. Now his roommate was a non-observant secular Jew. His roommate was intrigued by the shofar, because he'd never really, since he didn't go to shul, he never really saw one up close, and he had many questions. He then shared the following story with his religious roommate. I served in the Israeli Navy on a submarine. In those days, Morse code was the means of communication, and I became an expert in Morse code, able to send and decipher messages very quickly. Some years after completing my service in the Navy, I saw that the Navy was looking for a Morse code specialist to be in charge of submarines. I missed my old job. I decided to apply. Now, to apply for the job, we were told that we had to be at a certain office between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. So in the morning, I arrived, unfortunately a little late due to traffic, and I got there at 11:50 a.m. And I saw a room packed with applicants. No one, however, was being called inside. Everyone sat there waiting for someone to call them in. There was music playing in the background. I sat down for a few minutes, and I listened closely to that music. I then picked myself up. I opened the door to the office, and I said, I am here for the interview. There are many people waiting in line ahead of you, the secretary said. And you just come in? Wait your turn. I paid absolutely no attention to anything the secretary said. I walked straight into the room, and I spoke to the person in charge. After just a few moments, I was hired for the job. The interviewer went out to the waiting room and told everyone who'd been sitting there for over an hour and 50 minutes without a single one of them being called in, thank you all for coming. I'm sorry about the delay, You can all go home. We've already chosen someone." "It isn't fair," they all screamed out. "This man came in last. Why did you interview him before us?" He replied, "Did you not pay attention to the music that was playing? Listen carefully." And he played the music again. "It's in Morse code," he said. And the message in the music was this: if you've come for the interview, just open the door and come in. And even if the secretary tells you to return, just go straight to the one in charge. "This man that we just hired," he said, "he understood the message. You didn't. You're obviously not that fluent in Morse code, and you really don't pay attention." The man who didn't have a religious background, this man who identified as a secular Jew, understood at that moment what the message of the shofar was. He said, the shofar also speaks a language, but you have to pay close attention, and you have to be expert enough to listen and to understand what the shofar is announcing. On Rosh Hashanah, the shofar has its own unique Morse code, a sounds that speak to us, saying the time has come for you to just open the door and come inside. As we now are about to have the privilege of hearing the shofar tomorrow morning, the question for all of us is, will we hear the call? Will we understand the message? Will we listen to the coded message that calls upon us? A message to change, a message to break out of that which holds us from becoming the people we really want to become, a message to overcome obstacles that deter and dissuade us from moving forward. Those are the hidden Morse code messages of the sounds of the shofar. The tekiah, a blast of confidence. The shavarim, brokenness, difficulties. Truah, sadnesses that have overcome us. But then the tekiah gedolah, the message of triumph and the ability to change and to overcome. Will we listen to the sounds of the shofar and understand the Morse code that it is teaching us? Shana Tova.